If you grew up on Staten Island, you know the name. Parents whispered it to make you finish your dinner. Camp counselors shouted it around bonfires to scare the city kids. Cropsey, the boogeyman with a hook for a hand, the maniac who lived in the tunnels beneath the Willowbrook State School, the monster who snatched children off the streets and dragged them into the darkness. For most of the world, Cropsey was just a story, a myth like Bigfoot or the Jersey Devil. But here's the thing about Staten Island. Our boogeyman was real. His name was Andre Rand, and they caught him. The terror supposedly ended decades ago. Supposedly. My name is Mark. I'm a filmmaker, or at least I'm trying to be. My YouTube channel, Ruins of NYC, is dedicated to exploring the forgotten underbelly of the city. I've done the Freedom Tunnel, the subway tracks, the abandoned hospitals on North Brother Island. But there was one place I hadn't touched, the Greenbelt, the woods surrounding the ruins of Willowbrook. I convinced my friends Sarah and Jay to come with me. Jay was our muscle, a guy who could pick a lock in 30 seconds and climb a sheer brick wall. Sarah was the skeptic. Her grandmother had actually worked at Willowbrook back in the 70s, before it was shut down for its horrific conditions. To Sarah, the place wasn't a playground for ghost hunters. It was a graveyard of human misery. "We shouldn't go down there, Mark," she said as we parked my car near the Seaview Hospital ruins. It was a humid July night. The air was thick with the smell of wet earth and distant traffic. "It's not just illegal, it's disrespectful. Bad things happened in those tunnels." "That's exactly why we're going," I said, checking the battery on my heavy-duty spotlight. "The Rand case is closed, but people are still reporting disappearances in the Greenbelt. Homeless people, runaways. I want to see if someone is living in the old steam tunnels." Jay chuckled, pulling a crowbar from his trunk. "You think Cropsey has an apprentice? Come on, let's get some cool shots and get out." We hiked through the dense woods for 20 minutes. The Greenbelt is strange. It's a massive forest right in the middle of New York City. You can hear the hum of the Staten Island Expressway, but you're surrounded by ancient trees and creeping vines. We found the entrance near the old power plant. It was a concrete maw, half buried in dirt and graffiti-covered trash. A heavy steel grate had been welded over it years ago, but someone or something had bent the bottom corner up just enough for a person to squeeze through. "After you," Jay said, gesturing to the hole. I slid through first. The air inside was stale and cold, smelling of rot and wet rust. I clicked on my light. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating a long concrete corridor. The floor was covered in an inch of stagnant water. Pipes lined the walls like the ribs of a giant skeleton. "Welcome to hell," I whispered to the camera. We walked for what felt like an hour. The graffiti changed as we went deeper. Near the entrance, it was fresh tags and gang signs, but further in, the paint was faded, peeling. Dates from the 1980s, weird symbols drawn in charcoal. "Do you smell that?" Sarah asked suddenly. She stopped, covering her nose with her sleeve. I sniffed. Underneath the smell of mold, there was something sharp, chemical. Ammonia, I guessed. And something sweet, like old meat. We turned a corner and found a room that wasn't on any map. It looked like an old maintenance hub. In the center of the room was a pile of debris, mattresses, broken chairs, heaps of rags. But it wasn't a random pile. It was arranged, like a nest. I walked closer, filming. On a rusted metal shelf, perfectly aligned, were rows of objects. A child's sneaker, a Hello Kitty backpack, a rusted bicycle bell, a pair of glasses with one cracked lens. "Mark," Sarah's voice trembled. "These look new." She pointed at the backpack. It wasn't covered in dust. The pink fabric was bright, clean. I reached out to touch it. Scrape. The sound echoed down the tunnel we had just come from. It was loud, harsh, metal dragging against concrete. We all froze. "Jay," whispered I, "is that the wind?" Jay shook his head, his face pale. "There's no wind down here." Scrape, clank, scrape. It was rhythmic, like footsteps. Step, drag, step, drag. And it was getting closer. Panic is a funny thing. In movies, people scream. In real life, you go silent. You stop breathing because you're afraid the sound of your own lungs will give you away. "Light off!" Jay hissed. I killed the spotlight. We were plunged into absolute darkness, darker than any night above ground. The only light came from the tiny red recording LED on my camera. We backed into the corners of the maintenance room, crouching behind the pile of rotting mattresses. The sound grew louder. It wasn't just metal dragging anymore. We could hear heavy, wet breathing, a wheezing sound like a broken radiator. A beam of light swung into the corridor. It wasn't a flashlight. It was a lantern, swinging from a belt loop. The light was yellow and dim, casting long, dancing shadows against the wet walls. The figure stepped into the doorway. He was massive, at least 6'5". He wore a filthy gray jumpsuit that looked like it had been stolen from a janitor 20 years ago. His face was hidden behind a mask made of bandages? No, it was duct tape. Layer upon layer of dirty silver duct tape wrapped around his head, with holes cut for the eyes and mouth. But it was his right arm that made me almost vomit. The arm ended at the wrist in a stump of scarred purple flesh. Tied to the stump with leather straps and wire was a tool, not a pirate hook. It was a rusty three-pronged garden cultivator, a claw. He stood in the doorway, sniffing the air. He knew we were there. He didn't rush. He walked into the room dragging the metal claw along the pipes on the wall. Clink, clink, clink. He was playing with us. "Run!" Jay whispered. Jay lunged from behind the mattresses, swinging his crowbar. He was aiming for the man's head. It was a brave move. It was a stupid move. The giant moved with terrifying speed. He caught the crowbar with his good hand, stopping it dead. Then he swung the claw. It wasn't a clean slice. It was a brutal, tearing impact. The rusty prong slammed into Jay's shoulder, hooking into the muscle. Jay screamed, a sound that echoed endlessly in the concrete tube. The man yanked him closer and headbutted him. The sound of duct tape hitting bone was a dull thud. Jay crumpled to the floor, unconscious. "Go!" I grabbed Sarah's arm. We bolted past the giant while he was distracted with Jay. We ran into the darkness of the opposite tunnel, blindly stumbling through the water. Behind us, we heard Jay scream again, then silence. Then the heavy, wet footsteps resumed. We ran until our chests burned. The tunnels were a maze. Left, right, dead end, left again. "We're lost!" Sarah sobbed, leaning against a wall. "We're going to die down here like the kids in the stories." "We're not going to die," I lied. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the camera. "We just need to find a vent. Air has to come from somewhere." We kept moving, slower now, trying to be quiet. We found a staircase leading up. The metal steps were rusted through in places, treacherous. We climbed up into a larger room. It looked like an old boiler room. Huge, silent machines loomed in the dark like sleeping beasts. And the walls were covered in pictures. I shined my light. They were Polaroids, hundreds of them, taped to the brick. They showed people walking in the park, people sitting on benches, kids playing on swings. Most of them were taken from a distance, through bushes or chain-link fences. But some were taken while the subjects were asleep. "Mark!" Sarah whispered. She was looking at a photo near the center. It was a picture of me. It was taken yesterday. I was standing by my car, loading my gear. He's been watching us, I realized. He knew we were coming. This wasn't just a maniac living in a hole. This was a hunter. He stalked his prey above ground, learned their habits, and waited for them to come to him. Suddenly, the overhead pipes rattled. We looked up. A ventilation grate in the ceiling was loose. Moonlight filtered through. "A way out!" I pointed. It was about 12 feet up. "I can boost you, Sarah," I said. "You climb up, then reach down and pull me." I laced my fingers together. Sarah stepped into my hands and I heaved her up.
She grabbed the edge of the vent and pulled herself into the shaft. "I'm in," she whispered. "Give me your hand." I reached up. My fingertips brushed hers. Then, a heavy weight slammed into my back. I flew forward, smashing my face into the brick wall. The camera flew from my hand and skidded across the floor. I rolled over, dazed, tasting blood. Standing over me was the giant, the tape-face man. He wasn't dragging the claw anymore. He was raising it high above his head. In the dim light from the vent, I saw his eyes through the holes in the cape. They weren't angry. They were empty, like a shark's eyes. "Go!" Sarah yelled from above. "No!" I yelled from below. The giant swung the claw down. I rolled to the side. The metal prongs sparked against the concrete floor, inches from my ribs. He roared, a guttural, wet sound, and swung again. This time, he caught my leg. Pain, white-hot and blinding, shot up my thigh. The rusty prongs tore through my jeans and into my flesh. He hooked my leg and dragged me across the floor, away from the wall, away from the light. I clawed at the ground, my fingernails breaking on the concrete. "Sarah, get help!" I saw her face in the vent, tears streaming down her face. She hesitated for a second, then disappeared. I was alone with him.
He didn't kill me. Not right away. He dragged me down the stairs, deeper into the bowels of Willowbrook. My leg was on fire, bleeding heavily. I think I passed out from the pain. When I woke up, I was tied to a chair. The room smelled of ammonia and rot. It was the room with the trophies, the nest. Jay was there too. He was slumped in the corner, motionless. His chest wasn't moving. The giant was sitting on a crate opposite me. He had taken off the duct tape mask. I expected a monster, a burned face, a deformity. But he looked normal. He was an older man, maybe in his 60s. Gray hair, stubble. He looked like a guy you'd see working construction or driving a truck, except for the eyes and the missing hand. He was meticulously cleaning the claw with a rag dipped in a jar of clear liquid. "Why?" I croaked. My throat was dry as sandpaper. "Who are you?" He stopped cleaning. He looked at me. "Names don't matter," he said. His voice was raspy, unused. "Names are for the upworld. Down here, there are no names." Are you Andre Rand?" I asked, desperate to understand. He laughed, a dry hacking sound. Rand was a prophet. He was careless, though. He got caught. He let the world see him. The boogeyman can't have a face. If he has a face, he can be put in a cage. He stood up and walked over to me. He held the claw up to my face. "I was a boy here when this was a school. They left me in a room for 3 days without food in the dark. I learned that the dark is safe. The light hurts." He gestured to the tunnels around us. "When they closed the school, I stayed. I found the others, the forgotten ones. We made a kingdom." "Others?" I asked. He smiled. "Cropsey isn't a man, boy. Cropsey is a legacy. Rand taught me. I teach the next one." He turned toward the dark corner of the room. "Come here, son." Out of the shadows stepped a boy, maybe 12 years old, dirty, skinny, wearing oversized clothes. But his eyes, they were the same empty shark eyes, and his left hand was wrapped in bandages, freshly amputated. "He needs a tool," the man said to me, nodding at the boy. "And you have good bones." The man picked up a hacksaw from the table. "We need to fit him for his hook." I struggled against the ropes. "No, please, take anything. Take my money." "We don't want money," the man said, placing the cold blade of the saw against my wrist. "We want the fear. Fear keeps the upworld away. Fear protects our home." He started to saw. I screamed.
I screamed until my voice broke. Suddenly, a loud boom echoed through the tunnels. Then another flashbang. The room filled with blinding white light and deafening noise. Men in tactical gear swarmed into the room. NYPD ESU. "Police, drop the weapon! Get on the ground!" The giant roared and turned, raising his claw. 3 shots rang out. Pop, pop, pop. The giant jerked back, red blooms appearing on his gray chest. He fell backwards onto his nest of trophies. The boy, the apprentice, scurried into a small drainage pipe, disappearing like a rat. A cop was cutting my ropes. "We got you, kid. You're safe. Your friend Sarah led us right to the vent." They carried me out on a stretcher. I saw them checking Jay. The medic shook his head and covered him with a sheet.
It's been a year. I walk with a cane now. The doctors saved my leg, but the nerve damage is permanent. The scars on my wrist where the saw cut me will never fade. Sarah visits sometimes. We don't talk about that night. We mostly just sit in silence. The police closed the case. They said the man they killed was a homeless squatter, unidentified. They said he was responsible for the disappearances. Case closed. The boogeyman is dead. But I know the truth. I still watch the news. I still read the reports of missing pets, missing homeless people in the Greenbelt. And last week, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a Polaroid photo. It was a picture of my apartment building taken from the street, and written on the back in shaky, childlike handwriting, "Thank you for the bones." Cropsey isn't dead. He just got smaller, and he's growing up.